Hello and welcome to the Better Ways podcast. I'm Tom.
I'm Jamie.
Hi, Jamie. How are you?
Yeah, good, Tom. It's been a while. How are things?
It has, yes, it's been good. I've been away for a bit of sun in France, which has been nice.
Nice. Very nice.
But
Didn't get
otherwise,
murdered by climate change. That's good.
no, it wasn't that hot. It was 30, not 40. That was
God, that's hot
Greece.
enough.
Something you're thinking of? It
Yeah,
was hot enough for
yeah.
me.
There's,
Yeah, yeah,
there's plenty of good deals in roads, though. I was staggered to see the other day.
yes.
Two
Well,
is still
it is the
advertising
time.
holiday.
It's the time. It's definitely a good time to go because it's a very small number of hotels that are permanently
Mm.
affected and all that. But obviously, people don't want to. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Out of those situations, the best deals are made.
exactly
Uh,
that. Yeah.
so I was thinking maybe we get your thoughts on the current labour market and what's happening because it's a bit interesting time for us all.
Yeah, well, in short, we're doomed. No, I'm joking. Right. So, no, in a funny way, we always say young people are the future.
Yes.
It's not, Tom. It's
Oh, okay.
50. It's 50-year-olds plus that are the
Right.
future now, according
Okay.
to one of our finance ministers, and
Mhm.
what's going on, with our cousins across the pond as well.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
remarkable. You and I talk a lot
Mm.
about obviously, fertility rates, declining populations, all that type of stuff,
Yeah.
but it's I keep seeing all these videos of young people quitting the labour market because basically it's just not worth it anymore.
Okay.
She's explained to me how that works if you have to live, but all kind of like jokes and humour aside, there is a definite shortage of people being willing to do some
Mhm.
of the perhaps more simple jobs. Being, why would you go into a career paying £20,000 a year when
Right.
you see a 16-year-old on TikTok or YouTube making millions, which of
Mhm.
course Tom, you and I do as well with our very successful
Oh, yeah. Well, a billion to fact.
podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, but I think it was Mel Stride. I think he's finance minister.
Oh,
He works
yes.
in the
I know him.
treasury.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically said that people in their 50s and 60s should look at doing entry level jobs, delivering takeaways,
Mm.
all that type of stuff to boost their income. And
Yep.
actually, it got me thinking based on conversations I've been having, with people in multiple businesses who struggle to recruit. I mean, we're
Yeah.
almost, we're not. They say we're at full employment. We're not.
Yeah.
There's something like,
Right.
I think there's like 8 million economically inactive people
Yeah.
in
It
this
depends how
country
you
or something.
count it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It depends
Yeah.
how you count it. But nevertheless, the talent pool
Mm.
is definitely shrinking. There's
Right.
there's no doubt about
Yeah.
that. Part of it is obviously a change in expectations of what people want from
Mhm.
work. There's
Mhm.
no doubt about that at all. But if I, every generation fears that the one that comes after it is going to take its stuff,
Yeah.
basically. You've got someone who's cheaper that may do the job better than
Yes.
you. You worry
Yes.
about it because
Yes.
you're an
Yes.
expensive overhead. I think that in the West, probably for the first time,
Mm.
we're not we're not seeing that. There's a
Right.
reluctance of many
Yeah.
youngsters to enter the labour force and to work their way up slowly over a period of
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
There is a big reluctance to that. We know that certain jobs are really difficult to fill now, and you've got an aging population. So for me, it's inevitable. There's going to be a
Mm.
change in the kind of labour market demographics, if you will,
Right.
where people will be retraining
Yep.
to go into new things. People may be
Mhm.
taking on second jobs because of the cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think we're in that stage now where companies, perhaps more importantly,
Mm.
companies are going to have to get over their ageism problem, which, let's face it, does exist to a
Right.
significant degree. They're going to have to get over that
Mhm.
and start looking at bringing in people in their 40s or 50s and retraining them. I
Okay.
think it's a fascinating new world that
So
we're
it's good news for
moving
us,
into. Great news
as
for
long as we
us.
want to work in the supermarket.
But
Uh,
I'll work anywhere to get the money
and
if I
actually,
need to.
why not? Yeah, I've got a friend
Mm.
who quit a management job to deliver food for Sainsbury's and loves it.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely loves it. Does it part time. Obviously paid less,
Mm.
but just loves the simple challenge of a job where you
Yeah.
delivering a product directly to customers. You got there's a bit of challenge over the rural
Yeah.
properties. How do you find them? If it's on a farm,
Yeah.
which building do you go to? Are they in? Chatting to
Yeah.
people, and then yeah, it's so that's interesting. So, but I'm a little bit confused as to where the problem is with the young people. Do we not have enough of them? Are they not have the right skills? Is it there are expectations? Is it are they being told not to be ambitious?
Mm.
What do you think the problem is?
Now, that is a great question because I will get in trouble no matter what my answer is. And
Okay.
what I'm going to say is I'm going to play the politician's game here and go, look, obviously it's not everybody. I know some fantastic
Yes.
youngsters.
Yeah.
And all I can do is speak anecdotally from my experience and the anecdotal experience from other
Yeah.
people in business. From my experience, I've worked with, for the last 20 odd years, obviously, I've probably worked with people from boomers, Gen X, millennials, zennials, you name it. Okay. And and to my mind, I've always seen there are noticeable differences between
Yeah.
those groups.
Right.
So boomers by far and Gen X to a large degree, where you get a job, you do what you're told, you work. That's you don't push back against that. You don't say, well, that's not my job to do. You don't
Right.
say that's not part of my wheelhouse. You just
Yes.
do the
Yes.
job. And then every generation gets more and more and more rebellious. I think they ask for
Yeah.
more and more, and they push back more and more. Now, my industry
So we
is
went through that. Sorry to interrupt you, but I remember with millennials there was the whole debate about they want people. They were asking for things. Asking for beanbags was the caricature, or free food and stuff like that. This was about like 10 years ago, or so, 10 or 15 years ago, and everyone was saying, "Well, what do you do?" And there's that piece with Simon Sinek where he talks about the challenge of their, particular to that generation. So is that the sort of thing you're referring to?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. So I obviously work in an incredibly, without naming it, but I work in an incredibly difficult industry that's got a reputation as being, the failure rate in my industry is astronomical, like astronomical. And I've been in and around it for 20 years, and I've trained people that come through. And so I've trained Gen X, millennials, and zennials, and I'm probably missing one in between, if you like.
Yeah.
And I have seen the demand for immediate gratification
Yeah.
obviously is massively higher now than it was 20 years ago. There's no doubt about that. People don't want to learn a skill, develop it over time, they want the end result straight away. People push back a lot more against what they're asked to do. And a big thing as well, and I can't believe this, is, again, using my industry as an example. When I started in my industry, you were in the office at 8 o'clock, and if you left before 7, you were a pariah.
Right.
You were literally a pariah.
The
You were
long
called
hours
aside.
expected.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and I tell that story when I'm training youngsters now, and they look at me and they go, "That should be illegal," right? Literally.
Yeah. It's like
And
slave
they
labor.
do half 8
Yeah.
till half 5, and they're out the door. That is it. Yeah, and they don't like being asked a lot. Again, not all, some don't like being asked to do certain things. They don't want to go outside of their job spec on certain things as well.
Right.
They will not just accept this is the way things are done. They will push back and feel like they know more. That's always a youngster thing, but proportionally, it's getting worse. And I think we're seeing that in the employment statistics now. People change jobs constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly. In multiple industries, and the entry-level jobs, they're really struggling to find and to fill. Because why would you work for £20,000 a year when a TikToker's earning $1 million? Why would you?
Yes. Some are. Not many.
Yeah, not many. No,
I don't think there's a
but
lot of
you
money
always
in
focus on the
TikTok.
ones that do. And then you've got you've got the Tony Blair thing as well, haven't you? We want half of all people to go to university, and whatever that figure is, you've got people coming out with degrees that ultimately, from a practical perspective, are totally useless. Like totally useless.
They're not suited to that. Well, they're
to
not
the
going to
working
use
world.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they
So
come
do
out
you
with
think
80,000
it's? So you're thinking it's multiple causes? You think it's?
Yeah.
It sounds like attitude is part of it. And why do you think
Attitude's
that's?
definitely part of it.
Why do you think that's changed?
Well, this is. Oh, we're getting into deep territory here, aren't we? I can't remember who. It might have been, Ben Shapiro, who I disagree with on about 80% of things.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it was him a few years back. He said we spent the last 60 years talking about rights.
Yes.
We haven't spent 60 years talking about responsibilities.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And that ethos is, and we know that from Jonathan Haidt's work as well. The coddling of the American mind, fragility, all of that type of stuff. We've kind of taught people that you can be whatever you want to be. The world is your oyster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the world of your oyster doesn't match delivering pizzas for Domino's in freezing conditions.
People can see all the lifestyles that are available in a way that they couldn't, because we didn't have the technology or the media to show them that. And at the same time, they're being told they can have any of that they want. They can do anything.
And you're special.
And that they're special.
Yeah.
And then they arrive in the workplace and it doesn't meet their expectations, and therefore they don't want to do. Either they don't want to do certain jobs, or they're changing a lot. I think it's what you're
Yeah,
saying. To
that
try and
appears
find a
to be
job like that.
anecdotally, that is what
Yeah.
appears to be
And
happening.
it's part of it that, I mean, we're in a different world. So when you and I were young, or
Mm.
younger, I should say, um, we could realistically dream of owning our own house, having
Correct.
independent from our parents.
Yeah,
If we worked hard, we could have a successful career.
yeah.
There was
That dream is dead.
that dream has gone. Why has that gone?
Yeah. Well, we know we talked about the housing crisis, haven't we?
Yeah,
That being a problem.
yeah,
But this ties in with the demographics thing. I think you and I spoke to last time,
mm,
where it takes two people, a couple, to buy a house
mm.
now. The idea of buying by yourself is absolutely
So house
impossible.
prices, yeah,
Yeah, house prices massively gone up. The
cost of
value of
living,
labour gone
yeah,
down.
right,
In all and I don't blame it. It is a breaking of
mm,
the social
mm,
contract, isn't it? The fact
mm.
that you will be better off than your predecessors. That's been broken. And so I have
Yeah,
full sympathy with people going, why would I even bother trying to play the
right.
game if I
So,
can't
so you
win?
think that's part of it, that some are
I think that's
saying,
part of it as well. Yeah.
I'm never going to be able to achieve what I want. It's too
What's the
hard.
point?
What's the
Yeah.
point of bothering? Yeah.
Yeah. What's the point?
Okay.
And it's not an easy fix, is it? I do
Mm.
think most of it is cultural. I do think most of it is
Yeah.
cultural. And I understand the complaints. The labour market is broken. There is no doubt about that. The
Mm.
value of labour is massively decreased. There is no doubt
Mm.
about that. There is massive roadblocks ahead for youngsters as well, particularly
Yeah.
with things like automation coming in and so on. It is going
Hmm.
to reduce their chances.
Yes.
But equally, there are so many vacancies now. I even read
Mm.
something the other day, like the amount that bartenders get paid has gone through the roof because they couldn't get
Yeah.
enough staff.
Yeah.
That's insane when you think about it. But also the physical. You and I spoke about this before. The
Mm.
physical jobs, so things like working in construction and so on.
Yes. Yes.
Plus trades.
Yes.
There's such a demand for them. It's a
Yeah.
huge demand for them because we've shifted people away from that for so long. So I don't think
Mm.
it's so much they don't have opportunity. I think the opportunity is just in different areas.
And not
Because if they
areas
want
they
to go
would.
down,
Yeah. So not areas that they would either consider or know about or
mm,
have been promoted to them, or they would think is. I mean, it's back to the truck driver thing, isn't it? That
yeah,
we don't value truck drivers. So
hmm
historically, that's been, or more recent times, that's been a low paid, bad
mm,
conditions, unstable job which is unhealthy
yeah,
and very lonely. But
yeah,
we, if we'd valued it differently, we could attract people to it. And obviously,
absolutely,
rates went up a lot for truck drivers when there was, or there still is a shortage, but when there was the big crisis about the shortage.
yeah,
And some were able to ask for better conditions, but still there's been no strategy behind actually investing in
yeah,
that or changing that. So it's been left to whatever happens naturally, which I don't think
yeah,
has fundamentally changed it. May have
mm,
improved. I mean, I can earn a bit more money now. More people have got into it on that basis. But
mm,
um,
mm.
so, what do we need here? Do we need some kind of joined up strategy from
Of course we
government?
do. We're never going to get it. We're never going to get that. You know that as well as I do.
Yeah. What's the answer? Do we
No,
need to
I
say to people,
genuinely
"We lied to you"? We need to level with
don't.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's smarter decision making, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
because I always think, if I'm lucky enough to have a child,
Mm,
I would have told them historically to go into a field like IT because there's always going to be work.
yeah.
You know, AI has really
Mm,
made that not necessarily a safe choice now.
mm-hmm.
So I was watching a program earlier on, and it was on the green revolution that's required to hit net zero by
Yeah.
2050. It was on the BBC. Really interesting
Mm,
documentary, a little bit biased in certain ways, but
yeah.
very interesting documentary. And they were talking to a heat pump
Mm-hmm.
installation company owner, and he was
Yeah.
like, "We only have like 10% of the engineers that are needed to
To
hit
do
the
the install
2050 target."
nationally, he was talking about. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
nationally,
Yeah.
because it's different from your standard. Because like
Mm-hmm.
training to be a gas engineer, for example, takes forever.
Yeah.
There's loads of hoops you have to jump through, and it's very, it can be lucrative, but it's not
Yeah.
easy. But it's the same thing with this,
Mm,
because we've got so many people in that field, we don't have enough in this field. So it's a case of now, I think it's
mm.
spotting where emerging markets are going to come and go right. You need to always tailor your education to emerging markets, if you like,
Yeah.
which we don't do we, at the
Right.
university sector?
Right.
We never do that.
Well, yeah. I don't know how many courses there are on heat pump engineering. I'm
There
sure there's
should
some, but I don't think it's a large percentage of people.
No, nowhere
Um,
near. Same with
Yeah.
plumbers, electricians, etc.
Yeah, back to an emphasis on trades and technical
Mm,
colleges and vocational work, or at least the
mm,
jobs that can't easily be automated.
exactly that.
That
Yeah,
could be part of the solution. Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Mm, mm.
but
I
we're
mean,
not aligning it yet, are we? We're not aligning education with that yet. But I
no.
always felt that was a weakness between, what's it called, standard education versus further and higher education. There wasn't that. You'd have like a careers advisor who was normally pretty useless anyway, and then you
Yeah.
kind of, unless you had something specific in mind, you'd probably choose a
Mm.
course that would kind of interest you at university,
Hmm.
but not, why not type thing. Most of the time, people
Yeah.
go there for beers anyway. Yeah, so it's you and I spoke about this. It's modernizing education, isn't it, to meet the
Mm.
needs, and it's not necessarily just to meet the needs of the economy. It's to
Mm.
provide good jobs and
Yeah.
careers for people as well. We
Yeah.
forget that bit, don't we? It's
Yeah.
like you can sell all the David Beckham study courses that you want and say that it's a good thing they're
Mm.
doing it, and it teaches them about life and stuff. But if they come
Mm.
out at the end of it, they can't make a salary. They shouldn't be thanking you for it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how useful it is to emulate celebrity because such a small percentage of people will ever get there.
No, I
Yeah.
meant the David Beckham study. There was a degree that just tracked his career.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is? Oh, I'm
Yeah,
not familiar with that.
it's like a
Yeah. Yeah.
running gag that a university offered David Beckham studies or something.
Right. Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
or some of the grievance study degrees that are
Yeah.
out there at the
Yeah.
moment. Yeah,
Yeah. So worthless degrees that don't lead to anything. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and
Mm.
I don't want to go down the Sunak, or whoever it was that said, the degrees have to have a monetary, reward at the end of them. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you've got to be realistic and go, these people deserve a career and a shot at making a life for themselves. They're not going to get that if you push them down a grievance degree studies
Yeah.
route,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know?
the idea of uh, bursaries for roles have been used before to try and get more nurses,
Yeah.
people applying for medical qualifications. So
Mm,
that it can make a difference to some people if they see that I'm going into a profession with a high demand for work and I get an initial lump sum which helps me get on my feet and get
yeah.
established. Um, I think there used to be that for teachers at one time. I think
Oh, really? Mm,
for people training, I think there was something.
mm,
But yeah, I don't have a problem with that per se. If that will,
mm,
if it's roles which we're not able to recruit for,
mm,
but it strikes me it's a lot bigger problem than that. That's what we're talking about.
mm,
Um,
mm.
it starts a lot earlier and needs
Yeah,
sorting out sooner.
yeah.
Yeah. So what? I mean, we mustn't tar everyone with the same
No,
brush. Are the young people who are willing to work hard and invest for the longer term, are they thriving more because of the lack of competition from their peers,
I
or?
think I think that's very much the case,
Hmm.
Tom. Yeah, and again, anecdotally, it's what I've seen. And don't get me wrong, it's funny because you see millennials
Yeah,
being quite scathing about the generation that are
some
coming
below. Yeah, yeah,
after them. They're like, oh my god, and again, it's
yeah.
not everybody at all. Of course, there's always going to be mixtures within all groups, of course,
Hmm.
and every group, like my generation, was far too submissive in many
Hmm.
ways.
Yeah,
Same same with the boomers to a degree as well. You do what you're told. So
yeah.
there are weaknesses in each generation, but I think there's ultimately, you and I spoke about this before. Like was it soft? Hard times make hard people, and soft times make soft people. And
Right. So we've had it too
broadly,
good.
we've had it
Yeah,
very, very, very
yeah,
good. But
yeah.
again, people will shout at me and go, "Yeah, but what about housing?" And of course, it's not an absolute that we've had it too good, but because we are seeing the
Well,
last 15 years the
it sounds
fraying of
like
the social contract.
we've been giving a message of you can be whoever you want to do whatever you want to do at the same
Mm,
time as actual opportunities to do some of those things have decreased.
yeah,
Cost of housing, cost of
exactly.
living, number of
Yeah,
people competing for the same thing.
correct.
Um,
Yeah, we're
so
not
that
preparing people for the road.
yes, yes. So they are therefore dropping out or dropping and changing or struggling in
Mm,
the workplace a lot more.
mm, mm.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what's the positive message to end that on then, which should inspire those that do want to succeed?
Well, I think again, I'm paraphrasing here. I was speaking to a friend of mine about this, and Dana White, who is the president of the UFC. I'm a big
Hmm.
UFC fan,
Yeah.
and again, I don't know how accurate the quote was, but Dana White said, if you're looking to start a business now, or you've got
Mm.
something about you now, you've got not just a creativity, but you've got drive, you've got you've got tenacity, you've got resilience. He goes, your chance to shine has never been better. And I totally agree with that. I think superstars stand out now more than they've ever done because the competition is less. So, if I was in my old position and I was interviewing for people, I think that the difference between the people that just come along and just, you're like, what the hell is this person all about? And then you've got somebody who go, actually, they've really got something about them now. Those people will stand out. But also for people like us, like people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s now, I think the threat of them being replaced is massively lessened. And I think the chances for retraining, if you could find a way of funding it and doing it correctly, utilization of the older workforce.
So what would you say to somebody, say in the early 50s, who thinks they're on the scrap heap and can't get a job anymore?
You've got another 15 years where you can top up the pension.
Okay.
That's it, isn't it? You've got another 15 years.
So they just need to be prepared to sort of look and see what's actually out there.
If I was the government, you and I spoke about this before as well, I would do that retraining budget for people.
Like every 10 years or so. Yeah,
absolutely. And particularly in emergent markets, like net zero, we are legally bound to. We have to do it. And this program I saw earlier on was talking about how far away the infrastructure actually is. There's huge opportunities.
So I suppose with technology and environment, things like that, there's lots of new technologies and therefore new skills to learn that are new to everyone. So somebody who's older isn't necessarily at a disadvantage because there aren't young people with that knowledge either. And if they've got a good work ethic and they're willing to learn and they decide to master that, they could have a successful second career or third career.
Absolutely right. 100%. You and I were taught from day one. You get a job, you stay in that job. You work your way up. That was the ethos, and that started change. And that was always wrong. But that started.
It was true
changing.
for a lot of people in the mid 20th century that it worked out like that.
The boom generation, that was very, very standard. My dad worked for this company for 40 years, I think. But late noughties is when that started to change. I remember mid noughties when I was in my mid 20s and working, in recruitment at the time, and literally, if somebody had more than one move on their CV, you were just like, no one's going to hire him. It was literally the mentality with hiring managers was like that. Now, if you've been at a company more than 3 years, that's loyalty and that's long-term employment. So the world has changed.
Yeah. Well, there's opportunity out there. I think that's the message for everybody.
Exactly.
Take a look,
right.
but make your expectations realistic.
Yeah.
And you can succeed. Well, that's great. Good talking to you, Jamie. Well, it's a good one. And speak to you next time.
Absolutely. Catch you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Right.